Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mark Bell's Power Project podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Element Electrolytes. Nsima, when you think of electrolytes, I mean, me personally, I think of rehydration. So I'm thinking post-workout or maybe intra-workout. But you like to take them pre-workout. Why is that?
So it's funny. A lot of people ask me, what do I like using pre-workout or what's my pre-workout drink? In the past, I used to use things like NO Explode. And if anybody knows... maybe it was a bad batch, but NO Explode would always give me the bubble guts straight up. Like I'd use it and I would be just...
It would make you explode.
I would be pooping water straight up. Like that was the thing. But when I started using Element, I use it pre-workout and I also use it post-workout when I have a really, really hard session, because to be able to perform, you don't only need adequate nutrition, you also need adequate hydration. And hydration just doesn't mean drinking a ton of water. Hydration means getting the necessary amount of electrolytes in to be able to fuel your performance. And Element is so awesome because they have easy to use packets that have 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium in every single packet that you can just literally tear and pour into about 20 ounces of water, drink it, and boom, you're going to be ready to go. So I don't cramp up anymore. I always perform well, even when I'm fasted. It's crazy. And they just work great.
Pick up your Element Value Bundle today. And remember, you guys can get that 100% risk-free. If you don't like it, give your Element packs to a salty friend and get your money back. No questions asked. Head over to drinklmnt.com/powerproject. Again, make sure you guys check out the value bundles. That's like buying 3 boxes and getting one absolutely free. Again, drinklmnt.com/powerproject.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Saturday School, everybody. I am your host, Mark Smelly Bell. Appreciate everybody following along. I'm on a 10-minute walk in downtown Davis, about to head to my car, about to head to the gym, about to put up some points on the scoreboard. And I wanted to talk to you today about success and how you can be successful in your life. Let me first break it down by definition. And let me first give you what I believe is my own definition of success. I don't know what the dictionary says for it. But my definition of success is very simple. It's progress. That's all that success is to me, is progress. And then so how do we figure out ways of making progress? I think that everyone's goal is to make some progress in some things, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's being able to obtain more information. Success can come from so many different directions. You got wealth, you got health, you got strength, you got kind of inner strength, outer strength. Progress can happen in so many different ways. You can, by simply not doing something anymore, that could be a success. Maybe you used to drink a lot. Maybe you used to not take care of yourself. Maybe you used to eat very unhealthy. And now you made some changes. And those changes have resulted in you weighing 10 pounds less over the last couple years. That's success. Maybe you worked on a skill acquisition, and because you learned that skill, let's say Photoshop, you now make more money, or you utilize it every day. That's a form of success. And then even tweaking that skill set and getting better at it, that's another form of success. Success is everywhere, and it's in a major abundance, and there's no lack of success. In fact, I would go as far to say as success is happening all around us all the time, consistently and constantly. And it happens in the world consistently and constantly, kind of almost automatically. Because if animals don't propagate their genes, they don't pass on certain genes, then those animals will die. Because they need to be born with certain characteristics, and the stronger the characteristics that they have that help them in a given environment, the more likely those things are to be passed on from generation to generation to generation. And I think with humans, we're not born. The weird thing about humans is we're not really born with much. We're born a blank slate. And being a blank slate is actually very scary because humans have to heavily rely on others. And that's one way that you know that we rely on others. And so success, while yes, it's great to make progress and success on your own, it can be really beneficial to make success and progress in your relationships. And if you think about some of the most successful people, it's because they know other successful people. They've learned from other successful people. How many times have you heard about mentoring? A mentoring program, right? I draw energy from all kinds of different people. I use every day as a mentorship class with every single person that I encounter. I consider my wife to be a mentor of mine. I consider my dad to be a mentor of mine. I consider my brother to be a mentor of mine. I consider a lot of my employees to be mentors of mine. And I think if you can start to look at that from that perspective, you'll start to recognize how much success is around you all the time. Because if success is progress, let's take an example of this podcast. If success is measured with progress, well, just simply starting a podcast, that's a success in and of itself, just to get something started, because there was nothing in existence before. Now you have something in existence, and then you have things that you can look at where you can say, look, it keeps getting better. Like there's more views, there's more hits, there's more likes, there's more comments, there's more interaction. We're getting better feedback, and so on. You can see the success that by the different values and analytics that you can measure, what's measurable. So another aspect of success is to be able to measure stuff. Talking about weight loss, well, you need a scale. You probably need a measuring tape. Make sure you're losing weight from the right spots. Body fat percentages can be effective as well. There's all kinds of different measures that you can have. But if you're not tracking progress, then I think you're just kind of flailing around. I also would say that if you don't have the progress set up in your head, I would also say that you're flailing around. I think that you need to put this stuff out into the universe a little bit, and send out some energy wavelengths. For example, I think you need to write some of this stuff down or say it out loud to some people. These ideas, these things that are in your heart, these things that are kind of part of your soul. I think it's important to share these things out, because if you continue to keep them locked up, I just don't think that anything's going to happen with them. I mean, a graveyard is not a graveyard of just dead people. It's even more morbid than that. Hopes and dreams are buried there too. There's so much shit that people didn't do or even try. They didn't even try it. That's in a graveyard. It's a graveyard of excuses. It's a graveyard of would've, could've, should've, and never did, and never was. I mean, there's a lot of people that have a lot of fulfillment too, right? And we hear that said a lot of times. Someone's grandpa, somebody's, they say, hey, look, you know what? He was 87. He was a great guy. He had, 3 children. He had 3 grandkids. Most of his kids went to school. Most of his kids were a success. He seemed pretty happy, Maybe he had a great grandkid. that kind of shit. And you could say, well, he did as much as he could with what he had. You know, my grandpa, for example, my grandfather, he built his own house. He built his own car. He built a car. He was an entrepreneur. He would fix boats and cars and resell them. When he was younger, he worked on the railroad. He also was in the military. He also was around for the Great Depression. Like he went through a lot of things. He had 9 kids. I mean, he's somebody that when he died, we weren't like, oh man, yeah, he had all these things that he wanted to do. He never got a chance to do them. I mean, I do remember there was a couple things, but that's going to happen to everybody because you're just not going to be able to get around to everything, right? But he had a lot of love in his life. He loved a lot of people. They loved him, and so on. And he was able to make a lot of his hopes and dreams come true. And I tell you guys this all the time. Embrace your fears and follow through with your dreams. Embrace your fears, follow through with your dreams. I want you to think about this when you're training, when we're training, we're taught in powerlifting to grip the bar as hard as we can. And that's because that engages a lot of other muscles. And when you engage a lot of other muscles, you protect yourself better. Well, why not squeeze on everything in life and engage as many motor units, as many muscle fibers, as much mind power as you possibly can to the hopes and dreams that you have? Why not train your fucking forearms, train your grip so you can hold on to that for the rest of your life? Don't let that shit slip out of your fingers. I'll tell you what, opportunity, they say opportunity knocks. It really does. Opportunity will knock on your door when you're making the right thing, when you're doing the right things. You're making the correct decisions. I kind of look at it as like a karmic debt. Not to get too weird, but I think when you do things right and you do people right, you do right by your family, you continue to do good things, that good things come back around to you. They like seek you out. It's weird. It's really weird. It'll quote unquote fall into your lap. Someone will be like, wow, dude, how do you always get so lucky? How does everything that you do turn to gold? Well, everything that you do turns to gold because you make it that way. You decided that that's the way that it's going to be because you get to make decisions on how you want things to be. You get to set things up on how you want things to be. You get to pick your friends. In some way, you kind of get to pick your neighbors. You get to pick a lot of different things that I don't think we really understand or know how many different things we have options on. But when you're doing the right thing all the time, the options that you have will be better and better and better all the time. Back to what I was saying earlier about everything getting better all the time. I believe that every society, I believe that everything is constantly getting better, and maybe at some point, maybe it will get to a point where it doesn't. But in the history of histories, things have always gotten better. Civilizations have gotten better. And even going through our worst times, they've ended up turning things around and making things better. Having great tragedies, having leaders that abuse their power and things like that, having tyranny, and having people live under horrible and horrid conditions have all always led to things continually getting better in the grand scheme of things for everybody. And I realize there's still a lot of heartache, there's still a lot of tragedy, there's still a lot of bad shit going on in the world. But it is my belief and I could be wrong, I've been wrong before, is my belief that everything gets better all the time. In the grand scheme of things, everything gets a tick better. Places where they used to not have, much of a civilization, didn't have irrigation, and didn't have A, didn't have B, didn't have C. Maybe it still sucks there, and maybe it's still unfortunate there, but maybe now they have some of those things. So to try to take this all back to the beginning, success is simply progress. How do you make progress? Well, you're going to make progress by being able to solve problems for yourself. It is my belief that that's where happiness comes from. And not so much happiness. It's a weird word, weird term, because you're not necessarily trying just to be happy. But that's where a lot of satisfaction comes from. That's where a lot of homeostasis will come from. You not feeling nervous and anxious and things like that. It will come from problem solving. Problem solving comes from knowledge acquisition, the gaining of knowledge. Knowledge comes from criticism and conjecture. Knowledge comes from error correction, making a mistake. So, therefore, you cannot be a success without messing up a lot, without having a lot of failures. The failures don't have to necessarily be big, and the failures could be, you could go back to what I said earlier about mentorship. You can learn from other people that have failed, but you'll have your own problems. The only thing that we can do is we can continue to work on getting closer to truths, things that we find to be true, and things that we find to work for ourselves. They might not actually be the truth, but they're our truth, and they become our beliefs, and these are things that we can hold on to. And we can continue to narrow down our problems. We can have less problems. We could have smaller problems. But you'll always have problems. The goal is just to continue to make them smaller, and you'll do so through success, by being a success. And remember, success is not something that you chase after. Success is something that we attract. How do we attract it? You attract it by being a successful person and by being an attractive person. Which sounds kind of weird, because how do you get there in the first place? Well, you get there in the first place, you become an attractive person by being a problem solver. When you solve problems, you acquire more knowledge. When you solve problems, you are making things more satisfactory for yourself and probably for others. The knowledge is going to come from some failures, from some error corrections, from some criticism, from some conjecture. That's where a lot of this is going to come from. But success doesn't just fall out of the sky and land on your head. Success in life doesn't just happen. Success in life also just can't be forced either. Because it's my belief that if you try, I believe in try not. Really, truthfully. And the reason why I say that is that when we try, we're not actually doing, or we're half-heartedly doing it. At least from what I see from some people. And this is just my POV. This is just my point of view. And you're entitled to have your own. You're entitled to disagree. And anyway, there's some of my definitions of success. Hopefully you got something out of today's Saturday school. Let me know what else you guys would like to hear me chat about in the comments below. You can let me know. If you like this, if you enjoyed it, share it out with some other people. And just remember that all that success is just progress. It doesn't mean that you're great at anything. It means that you went from making $1,000 to making $1,200, and you went from making $1,200 to making $1,300. That would be an example of having some success financially. How does it match up to others? That's a different topic for another day. Because once we start getting into that, that's where we start to build anxiety. That's where we start to run into a lot of evils, is when we start to really compare ourselves to others and we start to go outside of ourselves. You want to try to stay within, because everything that you need comes from within. Everything that you need is on the inside. You don't need to go to me for answers. You don't need to go to your mom and dad for answers. You don't need to go to other people for answers all the time. A lot of the answers are already inside. A lot of the answers are already in your heart. A lot of your answers are already within. They come from within. And when you work hard, you'll see them pop out right in front of you. Work hard, do the right thing, make the right decision. Do your best to continually work on yourself and see if you can make yourself better. That's the way it works. And that karmic debt will come knocking on your door, and it will either have good news for you or bad news for you. You could have to pay up for a great opportunity, or you could have to pay up because you were a shithead.